So we get a lot of questions asking how long does the kombucha recipe take to brew kombucha? Meaning that when will my tea ferment? When will my kombucha tea go from, tasting like tea to tasting like kombucha? And the answer is it really depends. There's a few factors. I'm going to name a few of them, but a good rule of thumb would be this. Anywhere between, let's say, 4 to 12 days. Now that's very long. And here are the factors, okay? Factor number 1 is what is your ratio of nutrient solution, right? The sweet tea that you just prepared to starter tea or already brewed kombucha tea. Typically a recipe is 90% sweet tea, 10% starter tea, right? Now if you're using a continuous brewing method, it's usually the other way around where your brewer is constantly fermenting and you're constantly consuming rather than a batch brew where you're just bottling your tea. Other factors could be the temperature, okay? Generally a lower temperature will yield a longer brew time. Now I know you guys are impatient, but the nice thing about a lower temperature is that it tends to mellow the brew out, which means that the acetic acid will not be so overwhelming to the gluconic acid. Okay, now when I say a lower temperature, I'm not talking about 60 degrees, I'm not talking about 65 degrees. I say 70 degrees and above is safe. If you want to go 68 degrees, as long as your pH is lower when you begin to brew, and to do that, again, we talk about that nutrient solution to starter tea ratio. So if you're going to brew at 68 degrees, 67 degrees during winter times, first off, I tell you to get a heat mat, but if not, or in addition to the heat mat, if it's really cold where you live, one way to ensure that your kombucha is safe in the first couple days of brewing is to just kick up that starter tea, amount of starter tea you're using. So instead of 10%, use about 20%. The other factor that determines how quickly your brew will ferment is personal preference, okay? So some people like their kombucha tea on the sweet, tangy side, and some people like it when it's very dry, almost like a champagne, okay? I think nobody likes it really super vinegary, though through the years, I actually kind of like that bite, but that bite could be expressed through a drier ferment without it getting too much of the acetic acid. And those techniques can all be achieved through bottling, when to bottle, how to bottle, and before you bottle, putting it through a secondary fermentation. Hope that answers your kombucha recipe question.